To do a little prayer before we start.
Hello, I'm Peg
Can you
Donahue,
hear
the
me?
founder of Feng Shui Connections, and today I'm having a conversation with Jeffrey Stegman and Clayton Stedman, the founders of Focus Life Force Energy, distinct, a distant healing field technology for your home, for your business, another property, and you can also carry it with you wherever you go, through your phone or another object. So you might think of this as a service that you use to create a high consciousness environment. And I've been a subscriber to for FLFE since 2018, and I really love it. My home always feels like an oasis of peace and calm. And I know a lot of this is due to feng shui because that's what I do. But FLFE also plays a big part in it. And my husband and I both work from home and we enjoy an excellent life balance. We stay clear also of many of the stresses that so many other people are going through. And whenever people come by, they always say, "Oh my gosh, your home just always feels so great." And for many years, I was also working to balance EMFs in our environment. So I would like to do away with them, but my husband's a gadget nut. And so he would always bring in the latest technology, and the latest technology for many years has been coming with EMFs. So I would balance it off, and then something else would show up, and I'd have to do something else. But in recent years, the folks at FLFE have really been harmonizing EMFs. And I think that brings in a different philosophy and attitude, and it has been so much easier. In fact, when guests visit in our guest room, that's where we have our router, and that's the room where people sleep the best. It's just amazing. And that would not have happened years ago. So today I'd like you to hear directly from Jeffrey and Clayton about what FLFE is, the many resources they provide, the benefits provide, and why you might like to do a 15-day free trial if you haven't already done so. So, Jeffrey and Clayton, would you begin by telling our listeners what FLFE is?
I could start. Yeah,
Okay.
FLFE stands for Focused Life Force Energy. And it's a service, as you said, that activates a consciousness field. So we discovered a technology in British Columbia. A group of inventors had been working on this for a number of years. And with this technology, we're able to um, activate a field, like a consciousness field, anywhere on the planet. We have currently customers in 80 plus countries all over the world, and they can get on the service almost immediately. And we also have control panels so they can turn the service on and off. But this activation of a consciousness field is very similar to what we humans can do. So if we're thinking of, say, our sister or brother, and we're holding them in our mind, that's an identifier that we believe a consciousness field activates around them, and then we're sending them love. Maybe we're sending them specific healing that is now in the field around them. And we can experience that often, or at least I've experienced it often, where I'm thinking of someone and they call me.
That
And
happens to
what
me a lot too. In fact, I grew up in a family of 9 kids. And so, now when I think of somebody, it's like, wow, they call. And even that happens with friends as well. And it's like, I was just thinking of you. And so that's a good connection there.
so that unique identifier of they're thinking of you while they're dialing the phone is activating that consciousness field around you, and you're now connected quantumly with them. So FLFE works very much in the same way with a unique identifier, address or coordinates or a cell phone number in a jurisdiction. And the way the FLFE system was developed, it is able to take that unique identifier and activate a field very much like we humans can do.
And that's one of the questions I receive from people a lot, like, how does it really work?
Mhm.
And so I tell them it's quantum technology. So what are some of the many benefits? They're listed, pretty well on the website, but that's a little bit of work for people to go and dig in. So, would you like to tell us about? what extras some people get with this?
And I'm waiting for Clayton there. You want to go ahead, Clayton? I think he might have
It
frozen
may have
there.
frozen, yeah.
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 So I'll
There's a
go
little bit
ahead.
of trouble with his internet there today.
We have done research.
Oh,
We
you
have
have?
done
Okay, you're
research
back.
with our, yes. I'm trying. I think my internet connection is really, yeah.
It's coming through now.
Okay.
So I'll go
I
ahead.
wasn't sure
Or no.
if you could hear me or
Oh,
not.
here you
So
are.
we'll try one more time and then I'll let Jeff take it. So we
Okay.
did okay, great. We did, yeah, I'm up in a fairly remote area. Yeah.
Yep, you're coming through. Oh,
No,
no,
we lost
he
him.
dropped off. So
Okay.
that's okay. It'll be you and I.
Well, a consciousness field. So when we think about walking around the world, there's consciousness fields everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go into, say, a sanctuary type of place, like a cathedral or a mosque or a synagogue or some church that where people have been praying, for a long time,
Yep.
decades and decades, there's a field that's created there, and it's held by the structure of the crystalline in the floor and the walls. And when we
And
walk
that's a big
in,
part of feng shui. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
so that's held there, and that consciousness field, a high consciousness field, would be one that gives you that uplifted, energetic feeling. And just like feng shui, it's an increase in the energy present.
Mm-hmm.
Feng shui raises the level of consciousness, and FLFE goes a bit further and does some other things as well. We'll talk about. So the main one of the benefits is more energy,
Okay.
more chi, more prana,
Mm-hmm.
and people feel right away like they don't get that afternoon dip. You know, they
Yeah.
have more energy. They're especially kind of brain energy,
Mm-hmm.
where mental stamina, especially for tasks like studying, or just tough work where you really have to use your mind. People find that their stamina goes up dramatically, and we have research on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that extra energy is also seems to be very helpful for clearing, well, let's just say things that need to come up and be dealt with internally.
Mm-hmm.
So things tend to rise because the level of consciousness is at the unconditional love.
So would you say it's easier for people to deal with the things that they need to do as the consciousness rises?
Well, it's sort of a natural process because you're in the unconditional love zone. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in this field that's unconditional love. It's a bit like you go to grandma's for Thanksgiving and everybody's loving. It's just a wonderful atmosphere. Your problems kind of drop away a bit because
Mm-hmm.
you just feel loved.
Right.
And there's parts of us that may have had trauma early in life
Many
and
people.
and dealt with it the best way we could at the time. That those parts of us that maybe are closed off, that those now start to feel unconditional love and they start to come up for healing. And it's a natural process. It's like if when you're in love, unconditional love all the time, there's a natural uplifting of
Mm.
everything that
So would you
happens.
recommend that people call back all those parts that have been, you know, left out there or discarded? Bring them all back in?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot more resources available to
Mm-hmm.
bring everything back and integrate
Mm-hmm.
who we are in full. So yeah, so I'd say that's one of the benefits is more energy
Okay.
and unconditional love.
Okay.
So they kind of go together. So we follow Dr. David Hawkins and his map of consciousness, where each point upwards is 10 times more energy present. So at 550, where the service starts on the Hawkins map, that's unconditional love. And then you
Mm.
can take it up to 570, which is kind of high, higher unconditional love. So, so there's that. Another benefit we built in is EMF mitigation,
Mm-hmm.
because what we realized is, so we measure all properties when they come on the service using the Hawkins map and kinesiology. We have a team of kinesiologists. So, with the team, we check each other to make sure that we're all getting the same answer or within 5 points.
Oh, that's great.
So we saw, this goes back into the mid 2010s, that properties were dropping, like they didn't come up to the unconditional level. So when we would, or they were up there and then they dropped down, because we check all the properties on Saturday, they dropped down, and we'd call the customer and we'd find out they had a new cell tower across the street, new smart meter bank, or they just put in a 5G router. Well, that was before 5G, but they just put a new router in or something like that. So we realized we had to do something about EMFs because it was degrading the consciousness or degrading the environment. So it was not good for life. There was a need to mitigate that. So we did a lot of research and testing, and we found a way to mitigate, as you said in the introduction, harmonize EMFs. And we've done quite a bit of research. We've attracted Dr. Gary Schwartz, who's one of the top scientists in the country related to mainstream science and more frontier science, which is where we fit.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And it's really just science that hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. But in frontier science, you look at what are the benefits, first, like, is something happening before even maybe you explain it fully? Like, are people feeling better? So one of the big benefits of the FLFE environment is people feel better if they're sensitive to EMFs. And to some extent, maybe all of us are somewhat sensitive, but some people are super sensitives.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, they are.
I mean, can't even, hardly leave the house if they drive into town and there's some big, cell towers or a transformer.
Yeah, years ago, I used to be able to feel it, like as we'd drive by a cell tower, I could feel it in my arm. Like all of a sudden, this pulse would go all the way up, like to my shoulder. It's like, oh my gosh! And this was when cell towers were, fairly new.
Well, I think over time we'll adapt, but the rate of change has been so fast. 3G, 4G, 5G, millimeter wave, that we haven't been able to keep up. So what this does, well, first of all, the benefits. So we went to a University of Pennsylvania researcher that had done a lot of work on EMF sensitivity, and we got 30 symptoms that people experience. And we recruited, we did 3 different studies. We recruited 40 people in one of the studies who'd never been on FLFE, but they were at different levels of sensitivity. So we did a baseline, survey. They went on FLFE, did a survey, and we did that for multiple surveys for 45 days. And then they've all been on since. None of them will get off. So we saw a reduction in all 30 symptoms for everybody across the board.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so, the top ones are, here's Clayton.
Yep, he's back.
So the top symptoms, are headaches, insomnia, anxiety, joint pain. There's a whole group of them. So for FLFE, the biggest change were kind of those top symptoms. So we saw a major drop in anxiety, a big reduction in insomnia. Depression came up in that 40-person study. That was one of the top changes.
Yeah. Now, it just comes to mind, shungite, because shungite is one of the things I also recommend with people to help harmonize their environments. And in recent months, it's been recommended through FLFE also, verified shungite to get. So, do you recommend that people wear it, carry it? What do you recommend on that?
You want to answer that one, Clayton?
Well, I'll try. Can you see me okay?
Yes, you're coming in
Okay,
very well. Hmm.
because you're freezing up. So if I freeze up once more, I'll just stay off.
Okay, you're
So
doing
we recommend that. Great. We recommend that people wear shungite or have it within their aura.
well. Hmm.
So within, depending on the size of your aura, typically if you wear it, you know that it's going to be within your aura. And we
So you can
recommend
put
that
it in a
people
pocket.
wear at least 7 grams of shungite.
Hmm.
And uh, our latest program in FLFE, it is able to use the shungite in our auras to assist in greater harmonization than without it in the aura. So that's our most recent upgrade peg.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So, but I've always found, well, not always, say in the last many years, that shungite is really helpful um, to help harmonize environments in general.
Yeah, we found it during our research as really one of the only materials that can do that.
Hmm.
And we use it in the FLFE service. Um, we found a way to bring in the energetic signature of shungite into the FLFE bubble, into the love bubble. And so that was step one. And then this latest upgrade, as Clayton said, we're able to take physical shungite that's close to the person and sort of expand its capabilities and expand its benefit
Okay, that's
to
great.
be cover a larger area and be a stronger
Okay, so
benefit.
it's really just having it within your, or you could have it in a pocket, not necessarily have to wear it, so to speak.
Yeah, Gary, our
Yeah,
friend at Verified Shungite, he highly recommends wearing it against your skin.
yeah.
That there's some additional benefit of that contact
Okay, that's what I
with
was
the skin.
wondering. Yeah, that's what this
Yeah.
is. Yeah, probably recognize the
Yeah.
that it's and it so it is against my skin there. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for people who are trying FLFE, what do you suggest that they focus on, for their own benefit, so they get an idea that it is working, that there's a difference here. As people are, say, new to identifying consciousness or a high level of consciousness, I think this is probably one of the most challenging areas for them. How do I really know it's working?
Mhm.
Any suggestions for them?
Well, the first set,
Why don't I try that one first?
go ahead, Clayton. Assume you'll do
No,
some editing
I
later.
think my connection's so bad I'm going to jump off.
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off.
Okay,
Okay, Clayton. Yeah, so I'll start over on that one.
okay.
Well, there's several ways that people notice. I mean, some people feel it right away. And
Hmm.
one thing we recommend is you go to your control panel. So everyone has a customer portal control panel that you can log into and you can turn the service up and down in consciousness level. You can turn it off and on to really play with that, to feel the contrast, to turn it off while you're just quiet and you can kind of tune in and turn it back on. And the boosts are another way to to sense it. And that is a higher level of consciousness for a short period of time
Yeah.
that you can access through the
I
customer
love the
portal.
boosts. I have
Yeah.
found that the boosts are really helpful. Like if we have a particular customer service call or something that's going to be a little bit more challenging or whatever, to go in and turn the boost on to get added support during that period.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of akin to like revving yourself up before something, like getting, very
Yeah,
happy and very
yeah,
joyful before
yeah.
something.
In fact, I understand that you can actually turn it on while we are chatting here. You can turn FLFE.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so why
I
don't you
could,
do that?
I'll do that
And
right now.
then our listeners can see if they can feel it.
So the boost may, so the boost is just a higher level of consciousness. So you may feel it as kind of an energetic lifting in the center of your core, or maybe tingling,
Mm-hmm.
a quieting of the mind. And those are all things that also happen on the FLFE service. People say that their meditations are more easily. So that's one way to notice the service is when I sit down to meditate, is my mind quieter? Does it
Oh,
feel easier
that's a
to
good one. Yeah.
drop in? And sleep is the other big one because, our minds can be active at night.
Mm-hmm.
So people do notice that their mind's quiet and they can go to sleep more easily. And some people, especially EMF sensitives, they may have the best sleep they've had in
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah. I had
Um,
not thought of boosting it before sleep, but is that something that you recommend, turning on a boost before sleep to see if
you
you get
you
to sleep
could,
faster?
yeah, you could try that as a way to, if the quieting the mind even more, maybe a 600 boost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so another way some people notice, it's different for everyone,
It is. Yeah.
is to kind of how you respond to what's happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I find in the unconditional love consciousness field is just more forgiveness.
Oh, that's huge right there. Yeah.
And it starts with me. It's like more forgiveness of myself because that's probably
Mhm.
where most of the unforgiveness happens.
That's where it is. That's what I tell people. The work is always on oneself.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we just keep doing our own work, then things will get better.
So that was one of in our customer experience survey that we did with Dr. Gary Schwartz.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the top things people noticed was the ability to forgive yourself and others.
Yeah.
The second one, or right neck and neck, was the ability to notice the negative thought and to turn it into a positive thought,
Ooh, that's a good one.
to transmute it into a positive thought. So that's another way to notice, am I running down those negative pathways less often
Mm-hmm.
or with less energy,
Yeah.
right? And you're noticing, oh, there I go again. Now is that true that I'm incompetent or whatever it is the negative thought is? And then being able to transmute that into or
Mm-hmm.
transform it into a positive thought. So those were two of the highest
Okay.
um, what the respondents in the survey noticed about the
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. Those are really, really good ones. Very pertinent.
Yeah, they seem, and they're really sort of cornerstones of spiritual growth and happiness. So
They
it
sure
was
are.
really exciting to have those at the top of the survey.
So in homes where people are ill or sick, going through treatments, various treatments, how does Fluffy, well, we often call it Fluffy, FLFE.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
easier to
easier than
say.
saying.
It's easier to say. How does it help them?
Well, in a consciousness field, there's lots more energy, as we've said, chi and prana.
Mm-hmm.
And people have gone to pilgrimage sites for millennia for healing.
Mm.
So there's a real like scientific reason for that is that when they go to those places, there's more chi, prana, life force energy there. And what happens is when the body's in those fields, it starts taking that energy up.
Yeah.
And Chinese medicine recognizes how important, chi flow is and having that energy go to where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
all about
so
you.
it's all about it. Yeah, it's life, it's what animates us. So
Yeah.
when you have lots more of life force energy present, then it helps the innate intelligence of the body to do what it needs to do to heal
Mm-hmm.
or upgrade or whatever's happening. But
So, is there a risk that people would go into a healing crisis ever?
well, it is important to drink more water
Mm-hmm.
in the FLFE environment. So that's something if particularly if someone were
My water bottle
particularly
here. This is
yeah.
on the system. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, those will be coming out in January or February
Mhm.
for everyone. But yeah, so in drinking more water, so what happens is the body takes up this chi prana and metabolic processes are happening, repairs are happening, and there's waste, there's byproducts from that.
Mhm.
And so that needs to be cleared out. And like you said, if there's too much, it can create a healing crisis or feeling worse. So when we designed FLFE, we designed it to avoid that as much as possible. Because if
Okay.
people go on a free trial for 2 weeks and they feel worse, they're not likely to keep giving it a try. So,
That's exactly right. And you
so
also recommend that people take more magnesium. So if somebody's already taking magnesium supplements, should they increase that?
probably so. So in a high consciousness field, the the nervous system is adapting to that because there's just more energy running, and the nervous system, in fact, the myelin sheath and the you could call it the not the digital but the analog nervous system, which
Hmm.
is the myelin sheath and the connective tissue, is running lots of energy. So it wants to upgrade its capacity, just like you need a bigger wire to carry more
Yeah.
electricity, more current. So magnesium and essential fatty acids taken together are really important for boosting that capacity.
Hmm.
And we discovered that and worked our way through kinesiology. But then there was a weightlifting coach in Canada, Charles Poliquin, who we found had the identical recommendations to ours, um, of the ratio of magnesium to essential fatty acids. And so if you go on the free trial, all that's there in the resources
Hmm.
section of the customer portal. So
Yeah. And actually the resources section is great. And the community support there as well is really, really helpful. Yeah.
yeah, so that drinking more water's very important
Mhm.
to carry away that waste.
Yeah.
But the FLFE system is designed to turn down if someone's not hydrated well enough.
Okay.
So for them, so they wouldn't get quite as many benefits. So it's good to drink
Hmm.
the water if you can. Um, but we have recommendations for the first several weeks or first 3 days. I'm sorry, and we
Right.
changed that, where it's a much higher level than you might normally see recommended of water or hydrating
Because all of a
fluids.
sudden you're getting the boost. And if you are not hydrated, then
Yeah, and the body's really getting it's like suddenly you got $1 million check and
yeah.
you haven't had money for years to work on your house. You're calling those contractors like
Yeah.
that day. Um, so the body really gets to work and that water helps clear things out.
Yeah.
And then
And
ongoingly.
after people have had the service for a while, I was just wondering, do people plateau on it? Or is it always improving?
Well, it's interesting because the consciousness level that where the service is set
Mm-hmm.
is like a floor. It's not the top.
Okay.
So what happens is people's the environment goes up, and especially like they do feng shui, it'll go up.
Mm. Yep.
They may paint the house or redecorate or do something
Mm-hmm.
to change it. It may go up, but just
Clean it.
their own clean
Yep.
it definitely goes up. But as they do as they grow from being in the
Yes.
environment and doing their own personal path, whatever that is, it stays with them.
Yes.
So we have fairly high percentage, I think it's like 20% now, of properties that are over 600 on the Hawkins map.
Ooh, wow.
So that's the beginning of the enlightenment zone. So so that's there, and it's also compensating, for the EMFs, as we've said, but it's also compensating for environmental conditions, which
Mhm.
sometimes are called geopathic stress, and that can
Yes.
be underground water. Do you know? Is that part of feng shui as
Oh,
well?
it sure is. I work
Yeah,
with geopathic stress regularly and regularly educating my customers, my clients about what it is. Yeah.
awesome.
It's
That's
that
great.
invisible force that
Yeah.
is there. In fact, years ago, there were studies I think it was in Austria, and you may have heard this, that there was a town with a number of cancer patients.
Mm,
And the Dowses, they figured out they mapped all the geopathic stress, and the doctors mapped all the cancer patients. Every cancer
mm.
patient happened to be sleeping over geopathic stress. But the
Yeah.
reverse was not true. Everyone sleeping over geopathic stress did not have cancer.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was just a fascinating correlation.
Well, I'm so
So,
glad you understand it. Most of the times when we talk about it, it's a little bit of a new subject for them.
oh yeah,
So, so we have, it's one of the other benefits of the property program is we're continuously clearing the negative history of the land
yeah.
and the building and drywall rocks, we're clearing that negative
Oh,
history.
absolutely. And I do space clearings for people all over the world. And so I often recommend after they have it done that they go on and continue with the free trial and then, continue afterwards so
Hmm.
that it is continually cleared. Because you can have your space cleared and somebody else, will walk in and they'll bring their
Right.
key with them and things happen. And because
And
from the feng shui perspective, everything that happens in a space gets embedded in the floors, the wall, the ceiling, the furniture. It's
yeah,
all the history is written and it's
yeah,
recorded.
especially in places like Europe where, the people have been living in houses since the 1600s, there's a
Ab-
lot of history happening there.
Absolutely. Yes.
So the geopathic stress clearing is happening as well automatically in the property program.
In the property program. So it's happening in the property program, but not on the program that, people would put on their phones.
Yeah, so there is there are limits to the energy of the FLFE system. So
Yeah.
we're continually upgrading it, but if you had property clearing on a phone and you're in an airplane and it's trying
Yeah.
to clear the land even a high-speed car,
Yeah.
it's just too much energy.
And
But
you all always are continually upgrading. Can you tell us about some of the recent upgrades that people who are already subscribers that they might not be familiar with?
well, the geopathic is one of the areas we're continually upgrading.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, what's some recent ones? I mean, one of the ones that stands out is was in Florida. We had property. This person lived on a canal, so it was a
Okay.
seawater canal, and it went up and down
Yes.
with the tide.
Yeah.
And when we tested the property, they said, something doesn't feel right. And when we tested the property, at times it was at service at
Mm-hmm.
550 or above,
Yeah.
and at times it wasn't. We discovered that there was rebar in the concrete, and the concrete was breaking up, and so that
Oh,
rebar was was getting covered with salt water, and it was creating like a battery effect,
yeah.
and it was
Wow.
lowering the consciousness of the area. So with the service and the way we're able to basically write what we call programs or instructions in the field, we're able to compensate by asking for more energy to come in during the high tide times
Okay.
and to
Wow, that's
compensate
pretty
for
cool.
that.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a geopathic stress that showed up and we just made an ongoing change. And
Mm-hmm.
now anybody in that situation with the canal,
They
saltwater
all
canal
benefit from it. Yeah.
would be covered. Um, we did upgrade the EMF mitigation to include the use of shungite because there's just more and more millimeter wave coverage happening. And
Okay.
Regina Meredith is from Gaia TV is one of our customers and a big fan. And so she was having trouble going to Boulder because they put in all millimeter wave by the hotel where she was staying. And
Okay.
so we realized for those super sensitive canaries in the coal mine, we needed more than the standard service, so we upgraded it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
great. Yeah.
that was our fifth EMF upgrade.
Upgrade. Yeah, because it has been continual.
Yeah.
But that's one of the pieces that, well, I appreciate it all, but that's one of the pieces in particular that I really appreciate.
Mhm.
So that's huge with the EMFs. So is it a problem using FLFE with other healing and energy tools? Is there a conflict at all? Crystals, biogeometry tools, orgone, things like that. Is it all complementary?
No, they all seem to work together very well.
Great.
And we've
Okay.
never found any contraindications at all.
Okay.
It's just a high consciousness field. It's
Yeah.
like your house is high.
Yeah.
Everything works better in it.
Mm-hmm. And I've never found it a problem here. I have lots
So
of
there's,
things all around, that
yeah,
have, been working with this for 25 years. And so it all seems to complement. Yeah.
yeah, and works even better in some cases
Yeah.
with the high consciousness, just because there's more chi prana in the body. I think it's
Yes.
more responsive to interventions
Yeah.
because there's more capacity to change.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been fascinated with is the LOC, the timeline and how the consciousness of various places around the world and various countries. And I guess off the top of your head, do you have a sense of where like Canada and the US A fall on that now? Is it going up? Is it going down? It's
Yeah, we went back 5,000 years, so
Mhm.
we have using kinesiology. So it's in the section, the resource section of the customer portal if you go on the free trial.
Okay.
Yeah, so you had the harmonic resonance in the 80s, and you had kind of an up uptick in consciousness over 200. I mean, the whole planet had been below 200 for most of history, most of what we've looked at.
Right.
It had kind of gotten up to the 190s, but so
Okay.
that's in the Hawkins
And
map.
on the Hawkins map, that's what I was looking at right now. So 250 is neutrality and trust, and people are feeling trust. 200 is courage and affirmation. Below that, it's pride and scorn, then anger and hate. One thing I've always been fascinated with the Hawkins scale is that when people are in fear, I often encourage them, hey, if you just come up and you get angry about something, at the level of anger, you can take action, but at fear, you're just consumed by it. So anger
Yeah,
is a higher consciousness than fear.
yeah, yeah. And it feels that way too, because you're more in action. There's more energy, certainly a lot
Right,
of energy there sometimes.
right.
Um, well, so the world was like at 150, it was in that there was a
Mhm.
lot of just barely getting by sustenance living, and 190. And then we got above 200 in really in our lifetime, which is amazing in the history of the world. Now
Have
there
we
may
been
have,
able to stay there?
well, we were at our highest in 2019.
Wow.
So the planet had gone the highest. Um, it was, I'm going to pull that up. It was in the height, the mid 200s, like we were in the 250s to 260s.
On the planet?
Um, yes. Now, so the difference when you look at it, and it's really important to have the caveat that it's not good or bad, right?
Right.
Some
At
places
this
are
time.
higher, some places are lower.
Yeah.
It's often a function of how many people are in poverty or really
Mhm.
struggling to get by.
Right.
So it's not good or bad, but it's just a reflection of sometimes the economic conditions, sometimes the safety conditions like war and crime, and whether it's really safe
Yeah.
to go get water. So that can really affect the consciousness of a place.
Sure. Yeah.
So so the US and Canada and most of the countries with high economic and safety and rule of law, they were in the high 400s.
Okay.
So they were in kind of the mid 400s. I'm going by memory
Okay.
here.
And 400 is at the point of reason and understanding.
Yeah,
Yes,
so it's not quite to love. So love's at 500. Maybe we'll
it
review
is.
that. So
Yeah.
so in the 400s is kind of reason, scientific materialism, rule
Yeah.
of law, um, kind of mainstream science, you could say. Um, and then 500 gets into love, 550 and above unconditional love, and then 600
Yeah.
starts the enlightenment realms.
Yeah.
So it was at the highest level it had ever been in December of 2019.
Wow. That's awesome. And so has it gone down steadily since then or?
Well, take a big dip with COVID, right? So
Oh, yes.
so that whole narrative, there was a lot of fear, there was a
Yeah.
lot of um, reaction. People didn't know what was really happening, and it was unclear, and certainly in the beginning, how bad was it going to get? There
Sure.
was
Yeah.
lots of predictions. So it went to fear. So the whole world
Yeah.
went to fear. The U.S. did,
Yeah.
Canada, most of the
Wow.
countries,
Well,
and
we
then
lived through it. Yeah. And that was
yeah,
a
and
lot.
then so we all knew what it felt like to be in
Yeah.
that level of fear. So it's climbed back out of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can see dips for war, like the Ukraine war start. Um, some missed some of the big missile exchanges that happened recently. People in particularly in Europe, there's fear
Mm-hmm.
about that. Um, so that affects the countries a lot, and it affects the whole world. It's all
Sure.
together. But amazingly, the world is resilient, and it seems most countries are resilient, and it comes back, and it
Mm-hmm.
starts climbing up. So I think it's very positive for the world that we have resilience in consciousness, and we're able to climb back out of scares that we get.
Yeah. That's actually very encouraging.
Hmm.
Um, and we're also in a cycle, an astrological cycle for the next 20 years that will usher in a more humanitarian phase. So I would expect to see the levels of consciousness go up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this FLFE can really assist, help move it along a little bit faster. So where are some of the places on Earth, just off the top of your head that register, high on
Hmm.
this that are very pleasant?
Well,
Any
most of yeah, sure. Like there's pilgrimage locations like Lourdes.
Yeah.
A lot of temples in India are very
One of the
high.
ones I would like to do one time is the pilgrimage in Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, the
Yes.
trail. Yeah, what's it
Yeah.
called? Yeah, can't think of the name of it. But yeah, that's very high along there when you measure in different
Hmm.
chapels that are
Yeah.
cathedrals that are there. I guess more chapels and cathedrals in that area. But
Oh, it'd be interesting. I was just thinking when Notre Dame has reopened, if to measure that at some point to see if since it's
yeah,
all rebuilt.
they yeah, they've been very high. Many of those were at 700.
Wow.
Now that's inside in the nave where
Yes.
the priest would speak,
Mm-hmm.
give the service. They're
Yeah.
designed that way.
Yeah.
The geometry is part of that, and they were built on positive geopathic.
Yes, many of these were. And
This is
last year, my husband and I happened to be up in Montreal, and we went to the Basilica of Notre Dame, and
mm,
there was a music program there. Oh my gosh, that was fabulous. But I would expect that that would have a higher one as well, a higher
yeah,
of
yeah,
consciousness.
yeah.
Yeah,
We were there as well. Um, Yeah, so those places, and then your Stonehenge and
yeah,
Machu Picchu, those are both high spots. And you can feel it as you walk into those areas. And it's interesting with a high consciousness field, it has boundaries. That's why it's a field. So as you walk into, say, a Stonehenge, maybe you park in the car park and you start getting closer and closer to it. You'll kind of feel where you get
yeah.
that uplifted feeling.
And the pyramids in Egypt, would they be high consciousness fields?
Yeah, different places there are.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't dove into a lot of all the Egypts. We know the Great Pyramid is high.
it's
Hmm.
very, very high. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So. It's interesting
S-
as people travel around the world to really notice like where they feel good and where it's less comfortable, to
And
spend time.
and finding those pilgrimage spots. So when you travel, get on a site that talks about where pilgrimage spots are located, where people have gone over the centuries for different purposes, because those spots they may be high consciousness and the content. So there's the consciousness, and then there's the content of the field
Hmm.
that has an intention. So, for instance, Lourdes is all about the healing of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's places, particularly in India, there's temples with every purpose, right? So you
Yes.
can go for material wealth, you can go for fertility, you can go for different
Yes.
different purposes. So
And
there's
I
the
was just
consciousness
thinking
and
of,
then the intention in the field that's there.
right, I was just thinking of Mecca. where people make their they make it every year, or you have to do it at least once within a lifetime within that community. Yeah.
All those pilgrimage locations where people are praying and
Mhm.
and connecting with God they're always high consciousness,
Yeah.
If there's, if there could be a situation where there's intent to kill, or, like there's a negative action associated with it, but that's
Mhm.
very rare.
Mhm.
They would make it lower.
Wow. So you and your team do a lot of service work. Would you tell us about some of the projects that you have going on currently?
Yeah, so we've been doing this since the very beginning. In fact, we
Yeah.
never planned to make a business out of it. We just planned to do service work.
Yeah, I think it's so cool.
But we really found we could do more good if people joined us and they raise their own house, their own family in consciousness, and also we give a PIF or a pay it forward that we consider service work. So
Hmm.
each person has a chance with each subscription to give a subscription somewhere else. It's a little different kind of subscription, but it's very helpful.
Yeah, I use every one I get. I love them. Yeah.
Mm. So we have service projects related to cetaceans, to whales and dolphins,
Hmm.
where we activate a field and uh, support them to the best of our ability to
Hmm.
be healthy. We feel they're an important part of the planet, an important part of the energetics of the planet. We've done service work with major, horrific sites where there's been mass murder or, war. So we did all the concentration camps in Poland and Germany. Those were really sticky.
Mm.
Um, so the way we would do that is we would go on Google Earth or some other map program and find the spot, find the coordinates, and then the coordinates go into the machine as the identifier.
Hmm.
And then even just now that the standard service as it is will clear those.
And is it cleared instantly? Is it years of clearing? Is it over a
It
period of
no,
time?
it's pretty fast. It's pretty
Okay,
fast.
that's
Now
awesome.
in the concentration camps, it was that was really unusual because there were so many souls that were stuck there.
Right.
So there that took more time.
Hmm.
But it's still within days.
Wow. I mean,
Still
and there
within
are many
days.
more places around the world. I mean, just in recent days, where Syria has been freed,
Hmm.
and they're finding lots of burial sites there.
Yeah.
And then we have what's going on in Gaza. We have what's going on in Ukraine,
Yeah.
Africa, Sudan, and
Hmm.
many
Hmm.
countries all around the world.
Yeah, and so whenever we find that, we did refugee camps, we did a whole big big program there where we, helped to help that environment to just feel better and to support the people that are there. So that's the kind of thing we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that's awesome. It really is.
Mm,
So what would you suggest? How do we move our collective focus forward to make the world a nicer place, more humanitarian, more sustainable?
mhm,
What is it how can we use FLFE to do that? All of us.
mhm. Well, it always starts with ourselves.
It sure does.
Just like we said, probably with forgiveness of ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, so this is just a tool like other tools and other techniques that are out
Mhm.
there, and you have some really powerful ones that you work with, and all of that should continue. I mean, there's so many tools that we can and when we do use, we can advance quickly, and the benefits are more happiness, more
There you go.
fulfillment.
Yeah, that's right.
Life
Yeah.
is just more joyful and happy. And
Yeah.
then with that, it radiates out to everyone else.
Yeah.
Um, but FLFE can really help with that, and it can
Yeah.
really accelerate the process with these other tools and paths that we're already on or
Yeah.
already using.
That's a good point. And with the happiness, I think resilience is one of them, that
Yeah.
we build a stronger capacity for resilience because we're all human and
Yeah.
we're all going to go through ups and downs, but the ability to get up. My dad used to say, you just have to get up one more time, then you fall down.
Yeah.
And so we want to get up more quickly.
Yeah. And so just having more chi, more life force energy there helps our physical resilience. And then with those younger, tender parts of us that had trauma, that if they can heal and integrate, then we're more resilient
Mhm.
and just being happier. And we noticed that during COVID, our customers are like, I'm in the bubble, I'm okay.
Yeah,
I can be happy, I can do things that bring me joy
yeah,
and not be going down those rabbit holes that of fear and worry. So that's just our working on ourselves. And so that
yeah.
I think FLFE can really help with that. But I'd say second is we have more chi, we have more prana, our consciousness is higher. And the Hawkins map tells us that each point we go up, we have 10 times more energy. So which
Wow.
means we can send energy to other places and we have more of it to send and we're more powerful in
Hmm.
changing the world. So I
Hmm.
think raising consciousness is not only brings just joy in living, but it brings us more power to change the world and create
Yeah.
the world that we want to see.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of the mental health crisis that's going on throughout, so many all around the world, but particularly in the USA, we hear about it regularly, and maybe you do in Canada as well.
Mm,
Just it's one of the current day issues. So again, raising that consciousness and helping people to let go of the fear and anger and really the trauma patterns that that
yeah,
they have live with, inherited, have,
yeah, yeah, and
walked
certain things can strengthen those. Like there's triggers, and
yeah,
we go down that road, and um, I think just being in a loving environment is it's just balm for all those hurts that we've had.
yeah, absolutely. So one final question I have is, what are your measures of success for focused life force energy?
Hmm. Well, I think for individual customers, we like to see a progressively more positive experience.
Okay.
And that's partly how we designed it, so we don't have those healing crises and so forth. So
Hmm.
we want everybody to just keep feeling better and better, and
Yeah.
their life to keep getting better and better, and their relationships to keep getting better and better,
Hmm.
and their spirituality or connection, however they do it,
Yeah.
to just keep being stronger and
Yeah.
stronger. So on a personal level, that's really our main goal, is to support the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, we'd like to be larger. I mean, we're in 80 countries. We've got, tens of thousands of people on the service, but
Yeah.
it would, I think it could really, it could go bigger, and I think it
Sure.
would really
Are
help.
you in China now? Or
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
people in China, how would they use your service?
Well, people in China are very open because
Mm.
of Chinese medicine,
Yes.
depending on their background.
Hmm.
Um, People in the sciences tend to want to leave that behind, but so they tend to be very open to it. Um, but there's different cultural,
Yeah.
um, understandings. So they have a pretty strong cultural understanding, but there's other things that might get in their way, like um, they'd rather it be in Chinese, the website, and so we
Oh,
haven't done that yet, but
yeah.
it's getting easier and easier now with some of the
Yeah.
translating tools. So. Um, But right now we have a lot of growth in Scandinavia,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
which we're not even sure why, but it's just we're getting lots of orders there.
Well, the Scandinavian countries are already known as some of the happiest countries
Hmm.
in the world, and they come up every year, among
Hmm.
the happiest.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, something that will lift them even more. Yeah, Finland, I think, for several years running has been one of the happiest.
Hmm. I think one of the other measures of success is on the scientific, in the scientific world, that with Dr. Gary Schwartz being our director of research now, uh, we're feeling like there's transformations in the understanding of science that are really close,
Yeah.
and we would love to be part of that. That some of these unseen forces that are we don't have the tools to measure, that we could find tools that could measure it
Mm-hmm.
besides our human bodies, which can measure it. To see that a greater understanding of these phenomenon like the FLFE, like
Yeah.
consciousness fields in general.
Yeah.
So we're starting an institute related to that probably next year.
Wow. Nice.
So and we're doing more work in our science group with other partners like HeartMath and others.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked with IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences,
Yep.
and
Oh, that's
University
great.
of
And I have long
Pennsylvania.
admired the work that HeartMath does. Yeah.
Hmm.
They have really made big contributions to this field.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see that become more known, that
Yeah.
the science of it becomes clearer and not just we know it works, but
Mhm.
how does it work and what are the underlying mechanisms of it?
Okay, great.
Um,
And I actually do have one more question. Do you have what are some of the plans on the horizon of features that you'd like to add? If
yeah, we
you
got
could talk about
yeah,
any of them.
yeah, we've got some big ones coming.
Hmm.
We're redoing our entire back end of the customer portal
Hmm.
and the e-commerce part of it to allow us to offer more. So we have different booths coming. We have special meditations coming that
Hmm.
are just they're an hour-long boost for specific purposes. We said there's levels of consciousness and then there's the intent,
Oh,
the
wow.
information in the
So would
field.
it be
So
like a guided meditation?
no, it'll be actually a consciousness field with a
Hmm.
specific intent. Like, for
Okay.
instance, in like an even deeper sleep or an even deeper
Oh, okay.
meditation.
Okay.
Um,
So you
we
would
also,
activate it and then it
yeah,
would for that. Okay, that's
yeah.
great.
So the customer would be able to say, okay, I want to do this for the next hour, and it just opens up the consciousness
Mm.
field. So we've discovered that we can take a consciousness field from a time and space and
Hmm.
move it to another time and space. And it
That's
it
pretty
sounds
wild.
sounds science fiction, but we humans can do it. I
We
mean, when
can do
you
it.
when you think of, a retreat that you went to and you really sit down and really feel yourself there, you're there. I mean, you're in that consciousness field.
Great.
So like Machu Picchu at a certain time, might be one of the special booths. Stonehenge is like when, okay, what of the equinoxes, there was some ceremony at Stonehenge when it was the highest consciousness time. We've found some years um, back in the thousands,
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's
11.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
so that you could put yourself there for an
Wow.
hour.
Yeah.
So those kind of things are coming, and
Very nice.
also the water bottles that are charged.
Oh, yes.
Um,
So I guess I must be in the test cycle. This.
yes, you are.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's a way to help with hydration because
Yes.
people
I
can
drink a
be
lot of water.
challenged with
Yeah.
water, and
Yeah.
and um, when you have water that's high consciousness, like the Lord's water,
Hmm.
it gives you extra benefits, and it also just tastes really good, and it's
Yes.
easier to drink.
Yes.
So those are the kind of
Good.
things that are coming.
Well, thank you so much. This is
Hmm.
really, really helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time today to share with our listeners,
Hmm.
help them become more familiar and more comfortable with focused life force energy.
Hmm.
And for anyone listening, you can go directly to my website, www.fengshuiconnections.com. And there'll be a link there where you can link right to the FLE folks. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. My pleasure.